Tom Baptist. I'm the Superintendent of Public Works for the City of Hartford. I want to welcome everybody here to the landfill. Our Director, Marilyn Cruz-Aponte, wanted to be here, but her schedule didn't permit it. You all know Marilyn very well. I'm her substitute this afternoon. I just wanted to very quickly talk about some of the assets of this. This landfill is, in fact, a habitat. It's a very special habitat. It's so unusual. It's a grassland meadow habitat. It's a type of growth that is scarce in Connecticut right now, so scarce that there's even a state-listed endangered species that nests here, the grasshopper sparrow. And in the winter, you can see Arctic species up here. 2 winters ago, we had 3 snowy owls spend the whole winter up here. It's a magnificent vista, as you can see. Up to the north, you can see Mount Tom, Massachusetts. And to the south, between those 2 buildings, that's Higbee Mountain in Meriden, Connecticut, down there. And of course, the Hartford skyline. It's a spectacular view. Now, the challenge we have here in the Hartford community is how do we best utilize this rare resource? And so we have a plan, and we have a group of people, many of you are here right now, that are going to help figure out the right thing to do with this property. There are a number of potential uses. One of them is right behind us, the solar array. One of the larger solar arrays here in Connecticut that captures energy from the sun and makes it usable. We have the grassland habitat and the meadows that we talked about. We have the vista, so we have an opportunity here to have a scenic overlook for people could come out and get an entirely different perspective of the city from here. And of course, there's the idea of, on this part of the landfill that has the artificial turf, a greenhouse where we could introduce healthy foods to residents of the city, grow plants here year-round, become a place of employment for city residents and others, and put this part of the property to good use. I want to introduce Dave Bordendorf from MIRA. Dave is here. Dave, could you say a few words? There you are. Could you say a few words about how we're using this landfill as a source of energy?
Certainly, thanks, Tom. Yes, as some of you know, MIRA operated the landfill since the mid-'80s. Waste from all over the state came here, and in 2007, as the landfill was filling up, MIRA began the closure process of the landfill. We began installing a state-of-the-art synthetic cap on the landfill, and during our final phase of closure, we saw an opportunity to employ an innovative capping system, which is the turf that you see behind me, as well as a solar array. So we were the first landfill in New England to employ both the synthetic turf and a 1 megawatt solar array. We're currently working on a project that will send that energy from the solar array directly to the Public Works facility at Jennings Road. So we're excited about that, and there's a lot of potential on this site, as Tom said.
The gas go off, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, since the mid-'90s, the landfill gas has been used to also generate electricity. Currently, it generates about 1.3 megawatts. It runs close to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So the gas that's being generated by the waste that was deposited here since the 1940s is being used to generate renewable energy also, and that will continue.
Now, interestingly, the entire site of the landfill is 124 acres. So there's a lot of area here. That includes the entrance road that we just drove up, all the way over to the flood control levee, which is to the east of us. The river is just below us over here. And all the way up north, there's a piece of wetland area up there still intact that's also considered part of the site. The plan shows for this area, which is behind us, as a potential location for a greenhouse. This is the area of the existing photovoltaic array here, and some potential expansion of that in this part of the landfill, which is the slope just beyond where we are. The areas in yellow are the side slopes of the landfill. The area in green is the top area. And the plan for all of this space would be to establish and maintain a viable grassland and wildflower meadow habitat to add color, to add texture, to improve the quality of the environment here, and be a place for rare and unusual species to exist in conjunction with the other activities here on the property. Roughly, here's the 124 acres that was the entire site. The majority of the landfill part will be kept in an open space kind of condition, and some construction here of greenhouses and the photo array over here. Two elements that are worth mentioning. You see on the plan the viewing area. And on our way out, we can stop at the south end of the landfill, get out again, and take a look from this point, this high point over here towards the city, where we're thinking of constructing an observation deck that might hold 40 or 50 or so people at a time, because it's really kind of a wonderful site here, a wonderful scene. And the area would never be open to the public 24/7. It would be open by appointment or reservation only, because we have to regulate access to the site for obvious reasons, not only because of the gas and all the wells that you see, but also for the habitat purposes. The other element is some kind of iconic Hartford sign of some sort, maybe not a sign, a Hartford icon, visible to hundreds of thousands of people that go by on 91, that says something special and unique about the city and its residents and its communities. We are proud of Hartford. Let's show some of that pride by getting the community to help us figure out the best kind of icon to put there so that everybody sees when they go by. It's an exciting part of the project. It's one the community itself has come to us and said this is something that we should do in addition to the other things here in the landfill. Are there any questions?
I already raised a question before. I think that in terms of the signage or whatever it is that it's going to be, I think this area and this area are the most visible from the highways on both ends.
That's a very good point, and let me just say that it's that kind of suggestion that we really need to hear. This location has never been finalized, so all options are on the table for that. And you make very good points. As you're going north on 91, this is the view that you get.
And you see it for a long time.
That's correct. As you're going south on 91, this is the view of the landfill that you get. Right. So we'll have to take advantage of that fact and make sure that whatever is put up is put in the right place.
I think that doesn't preclude having something here as well, you know, for people who are seeing it on the side as well.
Too.
Yeah.
You know, another idea is we should all of us walk across and look at the river from here. It's really spectacular. Something you'll never see again. And it would be great to have a raised viewing area for your eagles and your hawks and everything way down here.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we could have more than one.
Yeah.
And yes, there are nesting bald eagles within, I'd say, 1,500 feet of where we're standing right now. So that's pretty spectacular to think that in Hartford, the capital of the state of Connecticut, within our city limits, bald eagles are nesting. Pretty cool. I'm happy if there are no objections to just walk over there and take a view across and see the river.
Yeah.
Would you all like to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to introduce Kim Stoner, Dr. Stoner of the Connecticut Agricultural Experiment Station. Dr. Stoner is going to be able to help us make some very important decisions of the kinds of plants, wildflowers and grasses, shrubs, well not shrubs, but other forbs that we want to introduce here to make sure that we're getting as viable a grassland and meadow habitat as possible. So we're going to rely upon her expertise and the expertise of many of her colleagues. Would you like to say anything about the scope of the plan here, Kim?
Okay, well, so my expertise is really in bees. I am an entomologist, and so I'm very interested in what kinds of plants bees use and creating habitats for bee foraging. But I also can draw on lots of other folks who have more expertise in sort of the specifics of how you create meadows and how to do it in ways that are cost effective and that you can maintain over the long run and that look good. So that's what I hope to like draw on my colleagues and others around the state, and actually I'm going to have a conference at the experiment station to talk about this, and use that information here in Hartford.
Great. Well, this is just another illustration of how the networking around this project is extensive as it is. It's very important. This is a coming together of many different interests and expertise to make this a very successful project for the city. Okay, our next stop, we're going to make one more stop. We're going to go down to the south end. We're going to still stay on the high side, but we're going to look out over the city from the south end of the landfill. So back in the trucks, and we're going to head down here, and we're going to get out one more time. Good?
Get the erosion?
This is Mark Tamaccio. He's our city architect, and we've kind of tasked Mark with the job of helping to figure out what an appropriate observation deck might be at a setting like this. We're not exactly sure that this is where it's going to end up. It might be a little bit farther away from the noise, perhaps to eliminate the foreground, which is very industrial looking, but instead focus on the landscape itself and the horizon and all of that's going around the perimeter of the landfill. Mark, you want to say a few words about that?
Well, this is all in its infancy right now, but I think this is obviously one beautiful vista looking out at the city. Of course, where we were looking at the river was equally nice. This may turn into 2 or 3 little viewing areas rather than one big one. We don't know yet, but all we know is it's going to be a nice deck. And after today, I would suggest we put heat on this deck. Probably be a good thing. But I know the challenge that we're going to have is we're witnessing it today. It's the wind. We're going to, we can't penetrate too far into the ground and cut through the membranes. So anything we do with the deck here, we're going to have to hold it down with heavy weights, similar to what they've done with the concrete blocks back here to hold down the solar panels. So it'll be a challenge. It'll be a lot of fun.
Great.
Tom?
Thanks. Any questions, anybody?
I'll just tell you, Steve McKay has these big, huge tents. Takes all over the country, big soup tents. A lot of places he can't drill down for exact reasons, asphalt or whatever.
Right.
He uses big water tanks.
Right.
And he fills them up, holds the tent, time to go, unplugs it, keeps moving.
Right. Yeah.
Big water tanks might be one of the answers.
Yeah, we use that in some of the tents that we do in the parks where we don't want to put stakes in the ground. We use the.
Do you have access to water up here?
Well, I was just asked that question. It seems like, well, yes, it comes from up there.
Yeah. That water you have access
Right.
to.
Yeah.
MDC has a major water source down at the bottom, and the guy ahead of MDC said, "We got these things called hoses. We hook it up, and we push it up, and the water will come up. And when it's cold, you just don't do it anymore, and you fill up big things." So he said, "You don't have to dig into it. You can just hook up to their water supply and run the hose up, fill up the big containers. But you know, when you build these things, the size of most bus tours, that's what you get up here, is 54 seats. So you got to figure if you want a big thing for a whole bus tour, or half at a time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way, you know.
Yeah.
But there's already bus tours interested in coming up here.
Do you think we should have those little devices where you can see, you know, a certain thing at a certain bearing?
Yeah,
You know, maybe
periscopes.
put a quarter in.
Yeah.
So it'll be a revenue source for the
Yeah,
city.
a quarter at a time,
There we
not
go.
much, but yeah. It's like talking some provisions. Yeah.
Get the
No,
Hyundai
those
dealer.
things.
Get the Hyundai dealer to subsidize it, and then you can.
That's
Oh,
it.
look at that one.
That's it. All right. I know if a Land Rover operation coming, they can do that. Yeah. No, I think those things would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, hone in on all the way down there. Good.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. The next steps are as follows. We have divided our task force into a number of subcommittees. We have a subcommittee focusing on the deck. We have a subcommittee focusing on the meadow and grassland habitats, one on the sign, the icon, and the other on the greenhouse. We're going to be working throughout the summer on further developing these ideas and plans so that we can come up with something more specific for the city to review, its residents and neighborhoods. So you'll be hearing a lot more about this. This is a very exciting project, one that the Department of Public Works is very, very fortunate to be in a position to help move along. So it's a great partnership involving lots of different organizations and people, and I know we're going to end up with something really terrific here. So thanks, everybody.
Thank